Nikki Lawson had the shock of her life at the age of 35. A few years ago, he noticed that his stomach was often uncomfortable and he felt sudden urges to use the toilet, sometimes with blood in his stool. He even said that one day he went to the hospital when his symptoms were severe and was told he might have a stomach ulcer before being sent home. For Black Panther star, who of colon cancer at the age of 43 in August 2020, Lawson said, this was around time actor Chadwick Boseman passed away. I remember watching him on the news and experiencing the same symptoms. But at the time, I didn't think this is something I've been through. Instead, Lawson thought changing his diet would help. He stopped eating some red meat and ate more fruits and vegetables. He started to lose a lot of weight, which he thought was the result of his new diet. But then I went to a physical exam, Lawson said. His primary care physician advised him to see a gastroenterologist right away because his iron levels were low. When I go and see my stomach, I'm like, sorry, I have bad news. We saw something. We sent it for testing. It looks like cancer. Lawson said, my whole world has become a kind of dark place. I was 35 years old, healthy, raising my daughter, and I was very shocked to have been diagnosed with this. Lawson, who is diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer, is one of a growing group of colon and rectal cancer patients diagnosed and growing at a young age in the United States. The share of colorectal cancer diagnoses among adults younger than 55 in the US has been increasing since the 1990s, and no one knows why. I cry because of chemotherapy. In a paper published last week in journal Science, the researchers found that Dr. Mario's Giannakis and Dr. Kimmie Ng has identified a way for scientists to accelerate their research into surprising increase in colorectal cancer among young people, calling for more specialized research centers. Focus on younger patients with the disease and include different populations in early-onset colorectal cancer studies. The hope is that this study will help improve outcomes for young colorectal cancer patients like Lawson. Among young adults ages 20 to 49, colorectal cancer is predicted to be the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the United States by 2030. Lawson, who is now 36 years old and lives with his 5-year-old daughter in Palm Bay, Florida, is in remission and cancer-free. His former secondary school teacher underwent several surgeries to treat his cancer and underwent radiation therapy and chemotherapy. He is now closely monitored by his doctors. For other young people with colorectal cancer, he said, my words of hope will be just to stay strong. Just find that courage within yourself to say, I'm going to fight this. And I just looked inside myself, Lawson said. I also have a very supportive family system, so they were definitely there for me. I remember crying during chemotherapy sessions. The medication made you very weak and my daughter was 4 years old. I had to be strong for her, she said. My advice to any teenager: if you symptoms or see something isn't right and you're losing a lot of weight and you're not really trying, a doctor. Seeing symptoms of colorectal cancer include changes in bowel habits, rectal bleeding or blood, cramping or abdominal pain in the stool, weakness and fatigue, weight loss. A report released this month by the American Cancer Society shows that the incidence of colorectal cancer among adults younger than 55 years of age increased from 11% in 1995 to 20% in 2019. However, the factors driving this increase remain a mystery. Dr. Lawson, chief of colorectal surgery at Hackensack University Medical Center in New Jersey, is a surgeon. Stephen Lekong said there was probably more than one reason. He noticed an increased colorectal cancer patients in their 40s and 30s his own practice. When he was diagnosed with rectal cancer, his youngest patient was 21 years old. Lekong said, overall, there is a decrease overall colorectal cancer rates population, which we think is due to an increased screening, especially older adults. But this doesn't really account for the overall increased number of patients who develop cancer, example, younger than age 50 and 45. Something else is happening. Some of the factors known to increase incidence risk of colorectal cancer include having a family history of the disease, having a certain genetic mutation, drinking too much alcohol, smoking, or being obese. They were identified as risk factors in older groups of patients, But they also seem to be associated with early-onset diseases. And these are things like excessive body weight, lack of physical activity, high processed meat and red meat consumption. Rebecca Siegel, a cancer epidemiologist at the American Cancer Society and senior scientific director of surveillance research, who is the lead author of this Montes report, said, very high alcohol consumption. But the data doesn't support these specific factors that are only driving the trend, he said. So if you have excess body weight, you're at a higher risk of colorectal cancer than someone who has average weight in your 40s. That is true. Another reason to think there is an increase and something else. 4 last year. Many people diagnosed at a younger age, including some high-profile cases such as Broadway actress Quentin Oliver Lee, who at age 34 after being diagnosed with stage colon cancer, were not obese. At conferences I attended, that's the saying on the street. Most of these patients are very healthy. They are not obese, they are very active, which adds to the mystery. We know that excess weight increases your risk, and we know that there is a huge increase in body weight in this country, he said. And this contributes to more cancers for many cancers, as well as colorectal cancer. But does this trend we see explain this sharp increase? No, it does not explain. See, scientists are divided on how well-known risk factors, specifically obesity, play a role in increasing colorectal cancer among adults younger than 55 years of age. Scientists debate the role of obesity. Dr. Shubhankar Chakraborty argues that while the reason for the increase in colorectal cancer in young adults is still not very well understood, diet and lifestyle factors may play larger roles than some think. Chakraborty, a gastroenterologist, said, we know that smoking, alcohol, lack of physical activity, being overweight or obese, increased consumption of red meat, that is, mainly dietary factors, environmental and lifestyle factors, probably play a big role. Ohio State University with Comprehensive Cancer Center. Other factors may be playing a role, such as the increased incidence of inflammatory bowel disease, and I think the biggest factors are most likely diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors, he said. It is difficult to pinpoint the causes of the increase in cases at a young age because, for example, it can take 10 to 15 years for someone with a polyp in their colon develop into cancer, he says. At this time, from polyps to the stage of cancer, a person is exposed to a wide variety of things in his or her life. And in order to pinpoint exactly what is going on, we need to really understand certain individuals by following through over time. Dietary pattern, medications, and weight changes, Chakraborty said. So that makes it really difficult because of the time it takes for the cancer to actually develop. Some researchers have found that the increased colorectal cancer among young adults may be linked to increases in childhood obesity in the United States.